So there are just certain teams I hate losing to. And considering that the Kings had been on somewhat of a downward spiral in the last 8 games, 1-6-1, and had lost in overtime to Arizona yesterday, who granted had, been on an upswing, but still, it's Arizona, guys. I was trepidatious, to say the least, going into this game against the Ducks. If you recall, the last time we played a Freeway Faceoff, it was in Anaheim, and it was tense. One of our players got ejected from the game. There were a lot of fights, unsurprising considering it's the Ducks. We went down pretty early, managed to swing an amazing comeback in the third period, won it in overtime, and what do you know, that's exactly what happened today. Our player didn't get ejected. Andreoff got hit about 10 minutes into the first period and left concussion protocol, did not come back. I'll get back to that. There are a couple of fights before that we need to talk about. This is Anaheim. They're a big, rough team. I'm going to go so far as to say dirty. I really do not like playing them. They are there's a top 2 of least favorite teams, and it just kind of swings back and forth between them and the Hawks, but the Ducks are definitely up there with teams I do not care to play. Within the first 2 minutes of the game, McDermott, who when I saw that he was in instead of Folin, said, yes! Last time I remember McDermott playing, he had a huge mid-ice hit on a guy, totally illegal, leveled him. It was awesome. This is exactly the kind of guy you want to see in a game against a heavy-hitting team. We're still without Kyle Clifford, which is concerning in that sense because he is such a good physical presence. So McDermott started out with an amazing fight, and I'm not the I'm not super into the fights as far as that goes. I know that makes me a terrible hockey fan, but whatever. This one was great. He leveled the guy. He just kept wailing and wailing and wailing, and it definitely rejuvenated the Kings a little bit because in the first couple of minutes they didn't really have anything going, and McDermott was like, no, I'm going to change the narrative here, and threw the gloves and did exactly what you would want him to do in the situation. It was a well-timed fight. It was a well-done fight. And, for him to be in the box for 5 minutes, it was totally worth it to see how it just got the Kings that much more involved. Granted, that lasted maybe 30 seconds, and then it was back in our defensive zone, but still, kudos to him. Fontenberg, a couple of minutes after that, less than 5 minutes into the game, he got into his fight, which lasted maybe 3 seconds, and then he was on the ground. So that one, not so great. But again, such a physical team. 2 fights in the first 5 minutes let them know that we were not going to be intimidated, that we were not going to fall down and just let them roll over us, that we are the Kings and we fight back. Yes! And then the rest of the game just did not go so well. The Andrea fight happened while we were on a power play, and it was such a good power play, guys. There were so many chances. I have no idea how we didn't bury them. That was kind of the story of the night. But it was the chemistry on the power play was great. There was a lot of cycling and movement that was very promising. The shots were really impressive and good chances, grade A chances there. A lot was going right on this power play. And then with maybe 22 seconds left, we had a face-off. And Andrew chooses, as he always does, to get in a fight when he doesn't need to and isn't going to give us momentum. You know what would have given us momentum? A shot on the power play that goes in the net. That's what I wanted to see. We didn't need a fight at the time. And I feel a little bad bashing on the guy because he did get knocked down in that first punch and looked dazed and left the ice immediately. And, concussion protocol is serious. I hope that he's okay. I don't understand why he makes these choices, and I don't understand why we continue to put him out there to do that. It wasn't necessary. It didn't make any sense to me. Anyway, I think I'm probably a little more bitter because immediately following that, instead of keeping the momentum of the power play, they cleared the puck, and once it was down in their zone, it was like our power play didn't mean anything. We could have gotten another play, but we didn't. And when it was down there, Perry or Fowler, one of those guys, was behind the boards and drew a lot of Kings players to him. And sure enough, instead of doing the wraparound as we expected, Quick's kind of leaning around to see if he's going to make the wraparound from this side. He doesn't. He gets it to a player up front, Curtis, I believe, and then puck straight in the net on the other side. So that really sucked. Any momentum we would have gotten off that power play was just, it was done. And for the next, 50 minutes, basically, 45, I would say, minutes, the Kings played a style of hockey that made me very concerned. They did not have many good chances at all. The Ducks had the majority of the possession and the majority of the offensive zone time. And when the Kings did seem to get a chance to do something, which was not very often, they were not capitalizing on it at all. Their puck management was just terrible. They couldn't get the puck to begin with. They couldn't get any cycles going. At one point, I started thinking that maybe they thought a scoring chance, if you got it behind the net and underneath it, instead of coming in from the front, but behind, then maybe that would count as a goal. Yeah, no, it doesn't, guys, because for a long time, that's all they did was just drive it around the net and back around and around. It was in this weird circle. I'm like, guys, this cycle is not what a cycle is supposed to be. A cycle is supposed to be getting the puck in different movements around the front of the net so that you have a chance to shoot it in. They did not. So, not so great. The Ducks had a couple of power play chances, but the Kings penalty kill is amazing. There was one at the end of the second period with 2:40 to go, that for the last 30 seconds, the Kings had complete domination of the puck despite being shorthanded. And then when our guy came out of the box, I think it was McDermott, we ended up drawing a penalty and ended up being on the power play immediately after that. Split power plays I kind of hate because any, momentum or, again, cycling and stuff that you would have gotten going is kind of cut dead by the buzzer and you have to restart again. But still, I was taking what I was getting at that point, because there were not a lot of chances, like I said, and the Kings were honestly lucky to be down the end of the second period, only 1-0. And why is that? Oh yeah, we have Jonathan Quick on his game tonight, completely on his game, just phenomenal saves. Standing on his head as always, particularly in the third period when we were just begging the offense to help the guy out. He is doing everything that he needs to do to keep the Kings in this game, and nobody can seem to get a chance because everything they're doing is the exact same play every time. It didn't work the first time, guys. Why are you trying it for the 70th? So it's getting very frustrating. By the end of the game, things were really not looking up, and I was not about to lose to Anaheim. That is unacceptable. Finally, the Kings realized that too. I don't know exactly what changed. I couldn't pinpoint it. We did pull Jonathan Quick for the last minute and a bit to get the extra attacker, and just something about that worked. Dustin Brown, guys. I'm going to be singing his song all season, I hope. I have been singing it up until now. He's so underrated. Him out of Sutter. I'm just going to say it over and over again. Dustin freaking Brown. So this was the shot that tied the game up with a little over a minute to go in the third period. When we're all just sitting there. We've given up. Dustin Brown does not quit. Oh, I love it. So a lot of net front presence, a lot of stuff that you had not seen, from the Ducks before, because there were so many blocked shots, and I feel like there were just 50 of them in front of the net at all times. It was nothing we could do was going to get past them. In this play, we just got, we got lucky, or no, I'm not going to say we got lucky. I don't think that's fair to the determination of the players on the ice. They kept going, they kept hustling, and that shot from Dustin Brown finally paid off. Oh, it's tense there for the last maybe minute or so as you're thinking, oh, we just got to hold on and get to overtime. They did. And then we got to overtime, and it's not the greatest overtime. The Kings were much better at overtime last season. That was their strongest suit, for want of a better phrase, last season. And this season, you guys know it's been a little iffier, not so competitive. So it was kind of a little back and forth, a lot more ice I would have expected us to do a little more with, but, they didn't do much with it either, so that helped. Then Dustin Brown, boss that he is, draws another penalty, high stick to the face. Hope he's okay. He was, because he came back out and played, obviously. So it's 4-on-3 for the last couple of minutes. It's like 2 minutes and 6 seconds left that they got the penalty. So basically the last more than 2 minutes was the Kings. They still couldn't do anything with it, so we go to a shootout, which is my least favorite thing. I miss when games were just ties. Because honestly, at this point, I feel like both teams kind of deserved a point, and if you've been watching from the beginning, you knew my earlier rant, I do not care for the Ducks. So wanting to give them, Anyway, we go to a shootout, and it's odd. I guess I have been watching Daryl Sutter for so many years that I would not have expected this particular group of Kings to come out to play the shootout. So our first one is Jokinen, who's only been playing with us for 2 or 3 games, but I guess in a shootout that doesn't really matter because you don't require chemistry, you just require being able to shoot past the goalie. So he missed. That was unfortunate. Corey Perry comes out and he doesn't miss, and that's unfortunate too. Then Brodzinski comes out and also doesn't even come close. So I really didn't know what was happening on this shootout. I was baffled. So that didn't go badly. But then Jonathan Quick does his Jonathan Quick things. Oh, sorry, that Corey Perry shot second, and we stopped him, and it was awesome, because I hate Corey Perry, like, more than anything. So then our third player to come out is Kopitar, and I love Kopitar. I really do. He's a great guy. Not always successful in shootouts, so I was slightly concerned that this third shot would then mean the Kings lost the game, and I was wrong. I've never been so happy to be wrong. It was gorgeous. Thank you, Kopitar. Keeps us in the game. Jonathan Quick then stops the next Ducks shot, and we are into sudden death here, and then they bring out Trevor Lewis. My unsung hero, top line Trevor. I have so much love for him. He scores this beautiful, beautiful goal. I wouldn't have even expected it. I'm one of Trevor Lewis's biggest fans, not as big as Judson, the season ticket guy that sits next to me. He is like in love with Trevor Lewis. I feel like of all of the little things that are good about Trevor Lewis's game, shooting has never really been one of them. But maybe it's because I rarely get to see him without any, pressure and opposition and stuff, just him and the goalie, and he can shoot great, guys. So Trevor Lewis puts us potentially up, and then Jonathan Quick does his Jonathan Quick Jedi magic, and the crowd is screaming. We went from, when did they score? Like 10 minutes in, and we scored with maybe 1 minute to go. So there was a good 45 to 49 minutes of play where the entire stadium just had no belief that we were going to go anywhere, and from that to beating Anaheim. It just feels so good, guys. So I am thankful over this Thanksgiving weekend that even if we couldn't beat Arizona, we beat Anaheim, and that's so much more important.